Frank Lampard, we like Frank, but it's just, he's still fairly hot under the collar after the defeat.
I think he spoke calmly. I think he's probably right, yeah. I think it's the way football's always been. We all felt that when we played the game. More often, human nature kicks in with referees, I'm afraid. You want them to have the courage of the convictions and be able to make the same decisions in different environments, under the same different amounts of pressure, I should say. But they don't. The human nature kicks in, and the pressure of a big crowd and a big club. I mean, Man U was when I first started playing against Man U, you always felt that Fergie had the refs. They were scared of him. You felt that.
Yeah.
You did. Whether it's true or not, but you felt it.
Did you guys speak about that?
No, you just...
Ferguson's at the officials.
We talked about, before we'd go to the big game, especially Man U away, don't give the ref a chance. Don't give him a chance.
Yeah.
But we got decisions at Liverpool we should never have got.
Yeah.
So he's right to it. It's a general feeling, but it's probably correct.
Yeah.
And maybe, we don't know if Salah would have got it the other way, who knows? But the fact is, it was a pen.
But the fact is, Gordon didn't help himself by getting booked in the first half.
That's what I was getting to, yeah. Again, we talk about refs being able to take each incident in isolation. That's just not the way the world works. People get reputations, and he is diving too much. He's a great player, by the way. I really like him, Anthony Gordon. He's a super talent. But he does dive a lot.
He's been around long enough to dive too much.
I've watched Everton so much this season.
Sure,
the refs have refed him probably. I don't know how...
They haven't built a body of reputation that people get unfairly or justifiably.
Well, within the same game. He isn't
in people's perceptions of... Yeah, but we can't make excuses for referees not being able to distinguish. None of us have managed a game as a referee in the pressure, but that's their job. That's what they do. That's what they're supposed to be conditioned
reality,
for.
not an idealistic point of view.
Reality is what you make it in situations like this. And referees should not be given a pass under any auspice for any decision-making process that's predisposed by a bias from something that happened earlier on in the game. That's not good enough. That's not what they're there for. And that, by the way, is not what VAR is there for, because VAR has that ability to be able to step out of that moment, not be prejudiced by the circumstances, because they've got the digital outlook of being able to see it for what it is.
Yeah.
So it's not good enough. It's not acceptable. It's not something we should factor into our thinking. It's not something we should have a margin of error around. It's not something we should ever condone or suggest that is vaguely something. And in a game of individual moments, it's ridiculous on any shape or form to suggest that a referee gets any countenance for that. And you look at
Simon, the human.
It's got the VAR takes away the human element. The VAR takes away that moment in time where you are put in a situation where you've got 50,000 fans or however many.
Humans run the VAR.
But they're not in that pressure pot. They're separated from it. They don't have that, that claustrophobic downward pressure of their moment. They've got the ability to step back from it and go, okay, we can pick this apart without 50,000 fans whistling at us, jeering at us, telling us what we should be thinking, without players getting in our faces. We're there. Well, we're that Chinese wall, for want of a better expression, between the situation and the outcome.
But the logic of not giving it is because what they saw is contact. Contact doesn't mean a penalty. So what the VAR has obviously thought is when he's put the arm on him, the contact isn't enough for him to go over. The problem is with that argument is we've seen it many times given. Yeah. I'm fine with refs not giving that more often than not, because I'm sick of seeing players
as
go
long
over.
As it's consistent.
Yeah, as long as it's consistent. I would rather see less penalties given because players would stop going over.
Do you think Lampard had a case to make the argument? I think he probably did, that if it was the other end of the pitch and it was XYZ, whether we pick Salah or Mane, whoever we want to pick, right, in front of the cop, they'd have sucked it in, wouldn't they, in terms of the refereeing decision.
I'm surprised you're going in this direction. So you're giving Frank a pass for what he's saying there. If it was the other end, be assured they would have got one.
Do I think by the standard of football that I'd like to watch that should be a penalty? No. Do I think by the standard of football and refereeing that we have, where contact comes into play, is it a penalty? Probably.
Right.
Yeah.
You're flagging up, Danny, at this stage, early in his career. Gordon's already got an unwanted reputation.
Well, do you know what? Because he's got that lovely way about him, his balance, he goes both ways, and he's got a low sense of gravity when he's doing his little tricks and his bits. He does get fouled a lot. And we talked about it with Grealish, and when he came back up to the Premier League with Villa, and you see him, they go over too easily. But the argument is, why shouldn't they, I suppose, when if you don't get the penalties or the free kicks.
Yeah.
So you're never going to win that one. But he does. If you're saying to me, would he have got the penalty if he hadn't gone down in the first half? Maybe not. Maybe not. But you don't help yourself, because unfortunately, whatever you want or think about referees, and I'm not making excuses, they are human. and they do go by reputation. Trust me.
Have you got an answer for me on this? Out the two of them, Burnley and Everton, who's got the best foundations to handle relegation?
Best foundation? You mean the best finances?
Who's best equipped to bounce straight back up?
I would have if I would say Everton are more likely to come back up than Burnley.
It's the same as Newcastle going down, isn't it? You know, what you're finding out is it doesn't matter how much money you've got, you haven't got a God-given right to be in the Premier League. Newcastle didn't have a God-given right to be in the Premier League. They got relegated, they went back up again. I would suspect, unless the decay, I mean, they're going to have to get rid of some of the rubbish that's in that dressing room, but notwithstanding that, I would think that economically they're in a better position. But Burnley are experienced. They know what the Championship looks like. It's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. It depends how the management, because you've got an absentee management in there. You've got Mashiri, whichever way you look at it. You can take a look at some of these managers and their contribution to Everton, because a lot of these managers are all mouth and trousers. They go in, they tell you what they're going to do and do precisely nothing. And the bottom line is that a few of those managers have not done a great job, and we've ended up with a squad of players that have been overpaid for, underachieving, but it lands at the owner. This failure lands with the owner. Everton being sucked into a situation where their playing squad is way below what it should be for the economics that have been spent on it. They're getting sanctioned on what they can spend. This is a mess, and they're fourth from bottom of the league, third from bottom of the league, staring down the barrel of a relegation. How do you look at that in any other way but saying, what are you thinking in that boardroom?
Yeah.
I'll
It's
tell
a
you,
mess.
Burnley's problem will be if they go down is that a lot of those players are desirable for the clubs coming up or the other clubs still in the Premier League. And Tarkowski, I think, is out of contract. I think you're going to see a bigger exodus of players out of Burnley than you would at Everton.
Yeah. Okay, well, I mean, it's becoming a bit of a dogfight as to who's going to go down. Of course, it's the time of the season that if you're in that position, you absolutely dread, and Evertonians are dreading what might happen next, and with good reason.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.